the real reason the Twitter board don't want Elon Musk to take over Twitter? Is it to protect freedom of speech? Is it because they want a fair platform? And whose fair do they really care about? Hello there, you 5.5 million awakening wonders. Thank you for joining us on this voyage. We value you. We value your input. We love being part of a community with you. If you sign up to my mailing list, it's one click away. You'll hear about live events we're doing in the coming months, including a one-day event with Wim Hof. There are only limited live tickets, so sign up to my mailing list right now to get those tickets. You can see me live in other places. All that stuff's on my mailing list. Now let's get on with this story. You know and I know that Elon Musk is trying to take over Twitter. Why does Elon Musk want to take over Twitter? He's pretty transparent about that. And why is there resistance to Musk taking over Twitter? What front has been opened on the culture war? Is the culture war a legitimate conflict or is it a distraction? Who is being protected? Who is being served? These are some of the questions we're going to be looking at in this video. If you're not a subscriber to our channel, subscribe right now. We love seeing that number going up. It gives us a real buzz. Twitter's board on Friday unanimously approved a plan that would allow existing shareholders to buy stocks at a substantial discount in order to dilute the holdings of new investors. The method, known as a poison pill in the finance world, suggests Twitter will fight Elon Musk to prevent a hostile takeover. So already there's sort of financial skullduggery taking place. Already they're willing to use stratagems and spoils and trickery to prevent Musk taking over. Shortly after Musk shared he'd become the largest shareholder in Twitter, Vanguard Group purchased more shares and surpassed him, now owning 10.3% of the company. Twitter's other top shareholders are Morgan Stanley and BlackRock. So it's not like Twitter's existing owners are like the British naturist David Attenborough and Mother Teresa and Lady Diana. Who owns Twitter at the moment? Elmo of Sesame Street. He's a lovely little bloke. You can trust him. It's like BlackRock and Morgan Stanley and Vanguard. So really, what kind of ethics and morality is Elon Musk outside of that Morgan Stanley, BlackRock and Vanguard are inside of? Musk discussed his offer to buy Twitter at a TED Talk in Vancouver, saying, Twitter has become kind of the de facto town square, so it's just really important that people have both the reality and the perception that they are able to speak freely within the bounds of the law, Musk said, although he wouldn't have said it that quickly. He don't like to zip through a sentence, does he, old Elon? A good sign as to whether there's free speech is someone you don't like allowed to say something you don't like, Musk said. And if that's the case, then we have free speech. Seems like a pretty reliable maxim to judge whether or not you have free speech. Are you willing to listen to dissent? Are you willing to listen to opposing opinions? Or are you always looking at ways of shutting that down, changing the rules so that that stuff can be excluded? It's damn annoying when someone you don't like says something you don't like, but that is a sign of a healthy, functioning free speech situation. Yeah, I'd love it if the comments below were just, Russell, you're great, your cardigan's great, your hair is great, love the woodshed, but not as much as I like it. I'd love that. But we accept dissent. We have to accept dissent. It's necessary to have dissent. That's a healthy sign of democracy, as Musk said. This is what Matt Taibbi had to say on Substack, writing about this issue. Elon Musk has reportedly attempted to purchase Twitter, and I have no idea whether his influence on the company would be positive or not. I do know, however, what other media figures think Musk's influence on Twitter will be. They think it will be bad, very bad. How none of them see what a self-own this is beyond me. After spending the last 6 years practically turgid with joy as other unaccountable billionaires tweaked the speech landscape in their favour, they're suddenly howling over the mere rumour that a less censorious fat cat might get to sit in one of the big chairs. A few of the more prominent Musk critics are claiming merely to be upset at the prospect of wealthy individuals controlling speech. Now, if that were the reason, if that is the reason, then that would be a universal principle that you would apply to anybody that potentially owns Twitter or other social media platforms. As more than one person has pointed out, this is a bizarre thing to be worrying about all of a sudden, since it's been the absolute reality in America for a while. Probably the funniest effort along those lines was this passage. We need regulation to prevent rich people from controlling our channels of communication. That was Ellen Pao, former CEO of Reddit, railing against Musk in the pages of the Washington Post, a newspaper owned by Jeff Bezos, complaining about rich people controlling channels of communication. The broader idea, I suppose, that is at stake is one that we talk about a lot on our channel. A lack of true values and principles. Absolute values, kindness, service, community, free speech. Some of the things that are in the American Constitution that are there as kind of a timeless framework within which a healthy democracy might grow. If you disagree with a principle, then I suppose we should be able to debate its application. But what we have at the moment are systems of censorship that favour either one side of an argument or another, with no one saying, look, I'm willing to listen to all sides of an argument. That's what I think we have to advocate for. True free speech, the freedom of speech of people that you oppose. Now, as I understand it, Elon Musk has publicly said, I want freedom of speech on Twitter, and I'm willing to pay over the odds to acquire this company. So then, what do the people who oppose him want really? Because surely you want more money, and presumably you want more freedom of speech. It's the freedom of speech thing, right? What's left is they want to be able to control the cultural output of that platform. Now, this ain't news to a lot of you because many people have observed that Twitter has become a pretty censorial place for a little while now, whether you like Donald Trump or not. And I know loads of you do and loads of you don't. But kicking Donald Trump off of a platform, I don't know, man, is that freedom of speech when a social media platform has more power than a president? And I seem to remember that a lot of these people that are complaining now were like, good, get him off there. Right, Elon Musk coming in. So it shows it's not about values and principles, it's about preferences. It's about their personal preferences about the kind of free speech that they would like to see elevated and promoted. Many detractors went the power route, suddenly getting religion about concentrated wealth having control over the public discourse. However, they didn't stop there. Media figures everywhere are openly complaining that they dislike the Musk move because they're terrified he will censor people less. A professional journalist who opposed free speech was not long ago considered a logical impossibility. Things are different now, of course, because the bulk of journalists no longer see themselves as outsiders who challenge official pieties, but rather as people who live inside the rope lines and defend those pieties. Do you know it's possible these days to have a Bill Gates sponsored scholarship where a journalist learns their trade at a Bill Gates sponsored school and then goes and works at a Bill Gates sponsored media institution and publishes Bill Gates encouraging stories about issues that Bill Gates will benefit from and still be called a journalist? It's hardly Woodward and Bernstein, is it? It's hardly out there challenging power. I'm guessing this latest news is arousing special horror because the current version of Twitter is the professional journalist's idea of utopia, a place where Donald Trump doesn't exist. Everyone with unorthodox thoughts is warning labelled, age-restricted content seems to be a popular recent scam, and the current thing is constantly hyped to the moronic max. Matt Taibbi talked about this when he came on our podcast, Under the Skin. He said that journalists and reporters used to be allied with the ordinary population. They used to regard themselves as outsiders, dissenting, throwing rocks at the establishment, inquiring and questioning. Now, as Taibbi points out here again, journalists are on the inside, protecting the establishment, protecting the system. What does that tell you has happened to the media? What does that tell you has happened to the profession of journalism? To me, it suggests that journalism has become the propaganda wing of the corporate state machine, expressing, espousing, promoting opinions that are beneficial to establishment power, never promoting dissent. Today, the dissent may not please you. Tomorrow, it might be your dissent that's being shut down. So please don't see this in terms of, well, I feel this way about the pandemic or Ukraine or about this, that or the other, what he calls the current thing. And I know a lot of people use that phrase. Think instead about the principle, the value, the same as I would invite the Twitter board to. What are your principles really? What do you believe in really? If you believe in community power, service, individual freedom, democracy, the ability to run your own communities, then you've got a set of beliefs by which to run your life. If you've got spiritual principles, religious principles, wherever they come from, if you believe in your freedom and the other person's freedom, then you stand a chance. If what you believe in is your version of tyranny, because your version of tyranny you've worked out is really nice and really kind and really fluffy and cool, then you ain't no different than any other tyrant. Regarding Twitter, journalists worked very hard to create this thriving intellectual paradise, so of course they're devastated to imagine that a single rich person could even try to walk in and upend the project. Couldn't Musk just leave Twitter in the hands of responsible speech-protecting shareholders like Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal? If there's anyone who believes in free speech, it's Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal. If you object to Elon Musk, then you've surely got to have some views on Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, particularly on the basis of free speech. It's become increasingly clear over the last 6 years that these people want it both ways. They don't want to break up the surveillance capitalism model or come up with a transparent, consistent, legalistic, fair framework for dealing with troublesome online speech. No, they actually want tech companies to remain giant black box monopolies with opaque moderation systems so they can direct the speech policing power of those companies to desired political ends. Well, there you go. There it is in a sentence. An authoritarian framework already exists in the speech world, just with different billionaires at the helm. So it's not the principle of billionaires, it's their billionaires. When I first started to cover the content moderation phenomenon back in 2018, I was repeatedly told by colleagues I was worrying over trivialities, that there couldn't possibly be any negative fallout to coordinated backroom deals to deplatform the likes of Alex Jones, or to the Senate demanding Facebook, Twitter and Google start zapping more Russian disinformation accounts. Even when I pointed out that it wasn't just right-wingers and Russians vanishing, but also Palestinian activists and police brutality sites and a growing number of small independent news outlets, most of my colleagues didn't care because they were so sure they'd never be targeted. The credentialed media were mostly all for the most aggressive possible conception of content moderation. Well, that's when it gets deep. That's when it gets into the type of individuals we've become. I include myself in this, schooled on selfishness, on pleasure, on distraction, so you can't see beyond your own sensory system. You can't see beyond the domain of your own personal preferences. Oh, well, I'll probably be all right. My job will probably be okay. So you'll use some kind of totem like, oh, you've got to be responsible about Russian propaganda, or you can't allow this kind of hate speech, but not notice that all little Palestinian deals are getting shut down or independent sites because ultimately you care only about yourself. This is where we really need to make changes. At the level of our own individual consciousness, our own ethics, our own morality, we have to have a system of values that we're willing to live by ourselves. Otherwise, we're participants in this kind of self-centered world of myopic self-interest. It was beyond obvious that self-described progressives would eventually regret hounding people like Mark Zuckerberg to start getting into the editorial business, and that pushing Silicon Valley to take a bigger interest in controlling speech was flirting with disaster. Of course, they would someday wake up to find these companies owned by people less sympathetic to their niche political snobbery and be horrified and wish they'd never urged virtually unregulated tech oligopolies to start meddling in the speech soup. This is why we need principles that are immutable, principles that are reliable. Then you'll know how to approach the subject of war. Then you'll know how to approach the subject of regulation and legislation in a pandemic. Then you'll know about surveillance and free speech. Kindness, fairness, other people's free speech, community, democracy, manageable power, access to power. If all you think about is, am I okay? Oh yeah, I'm still okay. Those people have been executed, but I'm okay. Am I still okay? If that's all you care about, you have nothing except your own pleasure, your own inner evolution, your own evolved systems of self-reward to guide you. Now here we are. To all those people who are flipping out and shuddering over the possibilities, CNBC, if he owns the whole place, the orange man is probably going to be back. Remember that you didn't mind when other unaccountable tycoons started down this road. You cheered it on, in fact. And backlash from someone with different political opinions and real money was 100% predictable. This is the system you asked for. Buy the ticket, take the ride. Well, there you go. Matt Taibbi there has laid it all out pretty plainly for you. Me, personally, Elon Musk seems like an interesting, fascinating character. He said things I agree with, he said things I disagree with. You know, if you watch this channel regularly, and I suggest that you do, that I have complex and evolving opinions on the nature of wealth and power, that I would like to see real democracy enter as many spheres and as many lives as possible. But it's difficult, isn't it, to disagree with what Matt Taibbi has said there, that all we're talking about is preferences over particular billionaires with particular opinions. And what I'd like to add to it is, if you as an individual, as you as a member of a community have no real values other than your own self-interest, then you will be blown around by real power, because real power, they have an agenda, they have opinions, they have prerequisite outcomes. So I guess it's time for us to try and connect with something eternal. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at this one or this one. If you want to come and see me for a day live with Wim Hof, register your interest by signing up to my mailing list. It's one click away right there. More important than any of this, though, is of course that you please stay free.